Welcome, everybody, to our third episode of our podcast, Motivate to Move. I am your host, John Lagroff.
And I'm Diane Trace.
And today we have a fantastic, hardworking, extremely dedicated, and always on the move, Samantha Grecco. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, John.
For those people out there that don't know who you are, could you just give us a short bio, a Cole's Notes version?
Sure, I can do that. I'm just a regular person. I'm a mom of two girls. I work full time, and I am a fitness instructor as well. And I'm a very, very active person, so hence why I'm on here.
Okay, so Sam, you mentioned that you are a fitness instructor. What type of fitness instruction do you do?
Right now, I am a Zumba instructor, and that's basically the only class that I'm teaching. I have in the past taught boot camp classes at the YMCA, but I really got into the Zumba. It's all I'm doing right now.
What was your inspiration for becoming a Zumba instructor? What is it? What do you love about it?
There's a lot of things that are my favorite thing about Zumba. One of my favorite things about it is you can spend an hour moving quite intensely without really realizing that you're exercising. I mean, and when I say not realizing that you're exercising, you're out of breath, you're sweating, but your mind is engaged. So it goes by really fast. You're not, trying to keep yourself engaged and occupied, and you're not getting bored.
So what level of fitness is required for somebody that wants to participate in one of your Zumba classes? And what about coordination? What if somebody's not coordinated?
Well, that's the great thing about Zumba as well, is as far as fitness levels are concerned, you can be at any level. Now, the Zumba class that I teach and the way that I do Zumba is pretty intense. And that's because I want to get a workout out of it, and I want to feel really out of breath when I'm doing it. But the thing is, you can modify any moves that are done in a Zumba class. If there's a certain move where you're jumping, you don't have to jump. Or if you're kicking, you don't have to kick as hard. When you're stepping, you don't have to step as fast or intensely. The moves can be done more slow and flowy, or they can be done more sort of jerkish and jumpy. That's the lovely thing about Zumba. And I do try to communicate that to my participants, that it's good for any level of fitness.
My biggest challenge with Zumba is the spinning in circles, because a lot of the moves you're turning in circles, and I have a problem with that. I have adapted by simply, while everyone else is turning around, I just rock back and forth, side to side. I keep moving. I'm just not turning around.
That's awesome, Diane. Awesome. That's what I love to hear, because so many people will walk into a Zumba studio, and if there's one move that they don't like, or there's one move that they find uncomfortable or they struggle with, then they're so discouraged. But I try to tell people, if I'm doing something up there and it's an awkward move for you, it might not be for me or the person next to you, but if it is for you, because we're all a little bit different, then change it or do something different, right? We're not getting ready to perform on a stage. We're just there to enjoy the music and have a good time. So that's definitely the attitude you should take in the class, is just kind of, well, if this doesn't work, I'm going to do my own thing, right?
Could you tell us what it takes to be a certified Zumba instructor? Like, what did you have to go through to get to that level? I mean, I'm sure you didn't just sit at home and watch some video and all of a sudden you're a certified instructor.
Well, surprisingly enough, to become the instructor, it was only a day course.
And you are so good at it, Sam. I have seen your classes. I haven't participated simply because the time frame doesn't fit my schedule.
Well, you're also a very busy woman, Diane.
We both are.
Yeah.
But I've seen you as I've been finishing one fitness class. You're coming in to do the next one, and I've watched you through the window. And your energy and your passion, it's just so contagious.
Well, I think a lot of that comes from how much I love it. And I want participants to feel that way too. And if I'm not like that, they're not going to get like that, right?
When you became a teacher of Zumba, was it everything that you thought it was going to be? Was there things that happened that you didn't expect, or possibly things that you thought wouldn't happen?
Well, there were some challenges for sure, and I say the training is only one day. Now, the training is only one day, and I think what they want to see is that you can follow a choreography and you have energy and you can cue and teach. But there's so much more after the fact, and I ran into a lot of surprises in that way while learning the choreography, and having the ability to remember the choreography enough to cue for my participants. I have to be 3 steps ahead of what's coming next so that I can tell them and show them. So definitely a lot of that stuff was a surprise to me, because you see these Zumba instructors and it looks like it comes so natural. But the biggest surprise I found, or thing I didn't expect when I became a Zumba instructor, was trying to get people motivated to try it, because a lot of people don't want to step out of their comfort zone. So I found it a very hard class to promote, surprisingly enough.
Well, I know that for me, wow, for me to try Zumba, that would be awful. I just can't imagine you being able to teach me anything when it comes to Zumba. I'd be like 2 left feet. I can barely do a turn or a twist.
Oh, John, I know you could do it. I know anyone could do it. It's just a matter of expectation. You think about, okay, for example, you guys are both distance runners, as am I. Okay, so let's compare it to that. When you show up for a 5K clinic, are you expecting that it's going to be hard?
For me, yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously not now, but when you first started running, you thought, okay, this is going to be
Initially,
a challenge.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, you're going to say, well, okay, I'm going to do a little bit at a time. This week I'm going to try to run for a whole minute. Next week it might be 2. But people don't take that kind of attitude when they come into a Zumba class. They come in and I'm doing an hour of choreography, and when they don't get it right away, they don't like it. So I try to tell them, give it 5 or 6 classes. Eventually, you're going to start to remember some of those moves, and you're going to be proud of yourself that you remembered them. And you're also going to start to get a better workout because you're going to do the moves better because you're used to them, right?
What else do you do besides Zumba? What else do you do for fitness?
I do quite a few different things. I do like variety. So I do some resistance training with weights. That's been a little on and off due to COVID. And I also run.
John and I know you through the Riverview Running Idiots. That's how we met. What is your running background? How long have you been running? And what motivated you to start?
So I started running in, I think it was 2004. I was about 19 years old. I was out on my own for kind of the first time. And I actually had a roommate that really liked to run. I could see that she was getting something out of it, and I wanted to know what all the hype was about. So I just gave it a try, and I haven't really looked back since.
You do all kinds of things. I mean, Diane was talking about it here a few minutes ago. But how do you balance all this stuff? I mean, you've got work. I know you work out, you run, you teach, and you have a large growing family, young growing family. I mean, how do you balance all of this stuff?
Well, some days are more challenging than others, I will say that. But my biggest motto for that kind of thing is you have to be crafty. I tell myself that every day.
That's good.
A couple of obstacles become an excuse for you, you're just not going to do it because, I've got 2 kids of my own in activities. I've got a husband who, before COVID, was playing on 3 hockey teams. And I was hosting 2 international students. It was kind of nutty. So, I had to carve out that time. And I think that's part of the reason why I became an instructor, because that's something I'm committed to. And if I don't show up, that class doesn't happen. That's kind of one way that I sort of force myself to do it.
You take the time. You make the time to do these things. It doesn't just come naturally. You take the time, you set it aside, and you do these activities in order to move, so you're motivated to keep on moving.
Absolutely, because I need it. Like, I need it to excel in my life. I'm not a good mom to my kids when I haven't been working out. I'm a cranky mom. I depend on it mentally. The payoff for exercise for me is not necessarily the same as it might be for others. For me, it's strictly mental.
It's very therapeutic, isn't it?
Yeah, you get sort of that kind of rush afterwards, and it keeps going for a good, for me, it's a good 24 hours.
I would have to say it's the same for me in that regard, the 24 hours. Like, I feel really good for 24 hours.
I tend to agree that I feel like it is that way with you too, John.
What? Come on now. You hardly know me. What are you talking about?
I just know you're just as addicted to it as me.
It's true. I'm addicted to running. I probably need an intervention, but oh well, we're gonna keep on going the way we're going.
Yep,
But it's a good addiction.
It
it
is.
is.
It is a very good addiction. I agree. It's something that I feel like I needed in order to make myself a better person, and I feel as myself. And I talked about this earlier. Diane and I talked about this on another podcast, on another show, that I just feel like I'm able to balance things better in my mind when I'm working out, or when after I've worked out. Things are just clearer. It's almost like a hearing aid when somebody's muffling something, sort of thing.
Yeah, that does make sense because when you're in a stressful situation, I know for me, my husband will look at me and he'll say, "Okay, go for a run." Like he knows when it's coming. It's almost like a pressure is released. And then all of a sudden you're right, you can think straight.
Now, Sam, this virus that's going on right now, it's changed the way everybody does things. Our whole lives have changed. Has it impacted your fitness habits?
Absolutely. It has impacted my fitness habits in the sense that I've had to sort of restructure things, and it's been changing ever since. Like the way I restructured it back in March is not necessarily the way that it is now, but I've kind of just had to roll with the punches. So a few things happened. I'm still not back teaching Zumba. They were only allowed to bring back a limited number of classes at Good Life, where I'm currently teaching, and unfortunately, Zumba wasn't one of them. I am going to get phased back in, so I've kind of had to deal with that where I'm not getting that 2 hours of solid cardio a week, and I really haven't made it back to the weight room either because I'm working from home. So when I was working in the office, I worked basically next door to the gym. So and my
Hmm.
kids were in daycare. So my kids would go to daycare and I would go to the gym before work. Whereas I don't have that set up now. My kids are home and I'm working from home. So I've really had to restructure things and try to find other ways to stay active.
You obviously really love Zumba. The cardio that you're talking about, it gives you the cardio,
Hmm.
and it calms you down, it clears your mind, it cleanses your whole system. I would say, just by listening to how passionate you sound, and by
Hmm.
listening to Diane say that she's actually watched you teach, and she can tell how passionate you are about it. Lots of people, I think, would love to try Zumba, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier, or maybe they would like to just get back at it. Is there any way that you can teach this remotely? Is it even possible to do that?
It's absolutely possible. Now, when this all started, I did make a video on YouTube for some of my participants and for anyone that did want to try it.
Oh, we might have to put that link in the show notes then.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Just put it up there because I wanted, and I also, it was kind of an experiment because I thought, okay, if I have a video on here where people can pause it and stop it or play the same song over and over again until they learn it, are they going to be more willing to come to my class? Because so many people don't like going to the class because they think, well, I don't know it and I'm scared that people think I don't know it, or people are looking at me funny, or I'm going to struggle. But if they have this video to refer to, then they might walk into that class with a little more confidence and have a better time. That was my biggest purpose behind doing that video, despite the fact that COVID was also limiting me to not being able to teach, is to give people a chance to try it. And I do say a little blurb before I play the video to kind of say that to all the people that are trying it. So yeah.
This might be a good time to just input the fact that if anyone is going to try Zumba or running, or go to the gym with Sam and lift heavy weights, or do many reps and try and keep up with her, that you really should see a doctor and make sure that it's okay for your health to do this. Not just everyone just can't get up and start running marathons. So go see your doctor before you end up injuring yourself.
That's just it. You got to walk before you run.
That's right. And I love to promote walking, and I wish more people would do more of it.
Yeah.
For sure. So, what advice could you give to our listeners who are moms and dads? Because it's so easy to let our children spend too many hours in front of a screen. What are some activities that you do with your family to get them away from that screen and to get them moving?
I make it a priority because it's important to me. So I just ripped my living room apart. I had a love seat, I had 3 chairs, I threw everything in the garage, and my living room became an activity zone. And I try not to do it in a way that is giving the kids a complex. You know what I mean? You, as a parent, you want to find that balance. You don't want to be like, you need to work out so you won't be overweight or so you won't have a heart attack. You don't want to put that kind of pressure on them. You just want to be positive and say it's healthy to get exercise, because you can go the other extreme, and that can cause children to develop eating disorders. But on the other end, you don't want to let your child be glued to their tablet all day, because it's not good for them mentally, it's not good for them physically, and it's causing a lot of damage. I mean, as far as advice, every person's situation is a little different. But what I do in my house is I limit screen time, which most people are doing. And I do have or I had, especially during this quarantine time, I had mandatory outside time pending the weather. And I even did this with my international students. Every day they had to go outside. It wasn't for a long time, but they had to go outside. They had to get some sun on them. They had to get some fresh air. And another thing that we did every day was we had active time. And oftentimes I would let the kids choose their active time so that they would be doing something that was fun for them. They did everything from yoga. We found YouTube videos, exercise videos. They played hide and seek. They ran laps. They ran up and down the stairs. We had to really get creative, but we made it work.
It's really refreshing to hear that, because I think that nowadays a lot of parents have their kids are running around. They're like, hey, stop running around. Like, stop doing that. Like, don't be moving. Don't be running.
Yeah.
Sit
Yeah.
down.
Sit down and be quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, sit down and be quiet.
Well, and they have energy to burn, and they need to burn it. And if they don't, then that's when you start to get problems, right?
Yeah, exactly. Can you tell us the time? Like you said that they have a certain amount of screen time. Can you tell us what that time is roughly in what you deem adequate?
Throughout the day, I did have them do schooling activities on their devices. So they did spend a lot of time on their devices. However, I tried to kind of combine it with board games and things like that. Now, right now, where, we're not so locked up, my kids get a little bit of screen time when they wake up in the morning, and then they get booted off. And it's been difficult. It's a constant battle. They will nag, they will bug, they want to go on there, they're bored. They used to be in daycare and now they're not. And since they're not in daycare, I've taken that opportunity to be like, when I was your age, I was out the door and I was on my bike and I was down to the park and I went and found my friends and this, that, the other thing. And after, a certain amount of time of me encouraging this behavior, I'm finally seeing it with my kids. And it's just bringing me so much joy. My daughter will hop on her bike and she'll go down to the park. She'll play in the splash pad. She'll bring friends back to the house, and then they're out there jumping on the trampoline. She's traveling around the neighborhood a little bit more, and she's getting that childhood that I had, that I enjoyed, where she has a little bit of freedom to roam. And she's rubbed off on my younger daughter. So, and she's taken her bike out more, and they're spending more time outside moving around. So
That's good
Yeah,
to hear.
that's great.
That's great to hear. The devices can be a very useful tool, but they can be very addictive for the children. And so it's good to hear that you are teaching your kids how to be responsible with their screen time. And I agree. When you let kids play, just let them play. They can use their imagination, come up with so many different games and activities. I think sometimes the children just forget how to have fun because we don't let them.
Well, that's the issue. I think as parents, we kind of shelter them a little too much.
I wanted to say that it's really commendable that you're letting the kids play. You get out the outdoor time. That's I've never heard that before. I think that's a fantastic idea. Were you making your international students go outside as well? You said you were doing it for all four of them, right?
Yes, I did make my international students go outside, and let me tell you, John, that was a challenge.
Was it really? Yes.
Well, they're teenagers and they both come from a very warm climate. So, they fought me on it every day, every single day. And, I kind of said, you know what? This is good for your mental health. You need to go out. I mean, if it was like minus whatever, 20 or worse than that, then, we'd skip it. For the most part, I booted them out the door.
And that must have been hard for them to adapt to that. The difference in the temperature and the climate must have been very difficult for them.
Absolutely, yeah. Actually, my student from Vietnam, she wanted to start running, and she tried, but she just found it too cold.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, so can I.
Yeah, I kind of told her there was no bad running. You know the saying, there's no bad running weather. There's just what is it? Poor outfit choices.
It's true.
She didn't think I was very funny.
There's so many different winter activities that these students would not have been exposed to before they came here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Did they go skating? Did they try things like that? Any outdoor winter activities? Sledding?
Well, the program is really good that way too. They had opportunities to, they had a ski trip. They had a few, like they did the Sugar Shack and they did things like that. Um, and I think they did a tobogganing one now. I don't think either of my students went to that. And that was a whole new challenge because, I'm not their parent. So like if they didn't want to go, I could gently encourage them to go, but I
Hmm.
couldn't be like, hey, get over it. You need to go get out of the house type of thing. So,
Right.
but I mean, we did stuff as a family too, and we got outside as much as we could. And they also both came to my Zumba classes, so they were staying quite active.
Oh, that's very interesting. Did they like the Zumba?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. It became this fun thing we did on Thursday nights. We'd all pile in the car and go do Zumba. So,
That's great.
yeah.
Do you still have contact with them? Like now that they're gone? Or
Yeah,
are they gone?
yeah, they're gone. I still have contact with them. My Vietnamese girl is actually, she comes back every year until she graduates, so she'll be back at the end of August.
Oh, so she's coming back to live with you again.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
That's super.
I just didn't realize that you were even busier than I thought you were. If I had to realize that, I would have put that into the introduction. I didn't know.
Sam is a very busy girl. So it's great, Sam, to hear that you are motivating the students and your children to get outdoors and to be active and to have fun doing that. But tell us, what motivates you? What is your motivation to keep moving and to be active?
Well, as I kind of touched on before, for me, it's not about my waistline. It's about my mental state. And I'm a very, for those of you that know me, I'm a very competitive person, and I'm
Hmm.
not competitive to other people. I'm competitive against myself. So that's sort of what drives me with these types of things. So especially like for example with the weights. If I go lift something and I do a good job, well next time I want to try to go heavier and heavier and heavier. So, these types of competitive goals sort of drive me. And of course, those endorphins. I need those endorphins too. So those are kind of the two things that keep me going. And there's one third thing that I haven't really touched on that keeps me going. It's the kids seeing me. I think that if you model good habits, that's the best way to encourage good habits.
So the kids will take after the way their mother and father treat them. Basically, they'll continue those habits as they turn into adolescents.
Well, and they see me exercising, and they see my husband, who loves to play hockey, go out the door and play hockey. And so it's not me saying you need to be active. It's them saying, well, mommy and daddy have things they do, like I want to do this, so I want to play basketball, or I want to do this, and it's kind of just something we all kind of do.
It becomes the normal.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And you were showing your children that activity is a normal thing and that it's a fun thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's great.
Are you considering teaching anything else? You said you're only teaching Zumba. You said you had taught boot camp.
I had, and I really enjoyed teaching boot camp.
What is the difference
between boot camp and Zumba?
Yeah.
Well, the boot camp that I taught, it was basically set up in a gymnasium, and we'd set up stations. So I really enjoyed designing those classes every week, because you'd have all sorts of different stations. You'd have, battle ropes, stairs, body weight activities. You'd have suicide sprints. You'd have all sorts of different things. And you could even make games. So it was a really intense, fun class. And I do miss teaching it, and I may teach it again someday. And another class that I think someday I would like to teach, maybe when life settles down a bit, maybe when my kids are teenagers, is body pump. Have either of you guys ever heard of body pump?
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. I'll be honest.
I've done body pump. It's great.
It's a very good class for strength training.
What does it entail?
Well, it's mostly weights, and it's high reps. And you usually, for every class, you target every muscle group. So it's a full body workout, and you're getting that resistance training. And for someone like you, John, who does a lot of running, this type of work can prevent injury, and it can strengthen the muscles that need to be strengthened and give you that balance. Whereas the running is a repetitive motion, right? So it can counteract some of that.
Interesting. Do runners do this body pump? Is that something that they do, or? Some
of them do.
Yes, we have several of the ladies in our running group that do body pump.
Yeah.
I apologize for being so unknowledgeable about this.
We're going to have to bring them there, Diane. We'll have to bring them there one day.
Yes.
I figure that maybe there's other people out there listening that don't know what body pump is either. So I figured I might as well ask the question and find out exactly what it is, because it sounds interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Body pump is offered at Good Life. I think right now they're not offering that class.
Actually, they are.
Are they? That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Why would they offer body pump and not Zumba?
Well, what they told me was that they weren't offering cardio classes because for Zumba, we're moving around too much and we're breathing really.
You're not breathing heavy in body pump? I mean, come on.
Well, yeah, my theory, and I don't take offense to this either, my theory is that body pump is one of the most popular classes there, and they have limited amount of classes they can restart, and that one won.
And I believe that it is one of the classes that adapts a little more easily to socially distancing, because it's a stationary activity. You're in one spot.
Yeah, and as long as they clean all the equipment after, it's doable, right?
So you just basically became a product of the numbers game.
Well, that's my theory. Now, I mean, that may not be the case. This is a national decision. It's not, Moncton, New Brunswick, the most popular class is this. It was kind of all of Good Life that made that decision. But I figure, because Zumba isn't a very popular class, and I'm okay with that. I would like it to be more popular because, the energy in the room is better when there's lots of people. But I can see why they would keep body pump and not Zumba right now, for sure.
Okay. Why do you think body pump is more popular than Zumba?
I think that body pump is more popular than Zumba because it has a lot more rewards, and it has rewards right after the first class. You know what I mean? You walk into a body pump class, and yes, it's hard. Like it's a very difficult class. Afterwards, you're sore. You can feel that you've worked the muscles, and you don't have to spend the class following something. So whereas with Zumba, you walk in and it's an hour of choreography that you've never done before. You know what I mean? So there's no instantaneous reward other than the workout that you're getting. you don't start to feel those rewards until like class 5 or 6 when you start to catch on to some of the moves. Whereas body pump, I found it incredibly hard, but I felt like I accomplished something really great after I walked out of there. So that's kind of my theory, and I can see why people feel that way for sure.
I've heard of both, but I hear more people talking about Zumba, so I'm a little surprised that body pump is more popular than Zumba. I guess I'm just not paying attention to the right people.
Yeah, it depends who you talk to, right?
Well, how many of our review running idiots do Zumba or body pump? Is there any kind of correlation?
I would say more of them do body pump.
There's at least a half a dozen, perhaps more.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, obviously, I have to become more familiar with the crowd. I'm way behind on what's going on out there.
He needs to get savvy on his good life info, huh?
Yeah, my
Yeah.
Good Life info is way down the dirt. The only thing I've ever done at Good Life was shovel the walkway out front in the wintertime. That's the only thing I've ever done.
Hey, that's exercise.
People are leaving there, and I'm thinking, dude, you should just not bother buying a membership and come on out and shovel the walkway. Look, there's 3 feet of snow here. Come on out, give us a hand. But that's not usually what happens. They
No.
walk out with their sandals on in the middle of the winter, and they're running to their car with 2 feet of snow in the parking lot.
Yep.
Right. Sam, what advice would you today have for 18-year-old Sam?
I'm trying to think back to 18-year-old Sam, and she's come a long way. But yeah, one thing that I would want my 18-year-old self to know is that it really doesn't matter what anyone thinks.
Oh, I am with you there.
And I know that doesn't have a lot to do with exercise itself, but it's ingrained into everything you do with exercise. When you go out to a group run, or when you teach a Zumba class, or when you show up to a class, or when you're in the gym, you really have to look within yourself and be true to yourself, and not cater to what someone else thinks you need to be doing. And I didn't know that when I was in my early 20s, and it was a lesson that I learned. It was very hard for me to learn. So I think that would be the number one thing I would tell her.
That is the best answer.
And sometimes I forget that myself.
Oh, me too, on a regular basis.
Oh, that it really doesn't matter what anybody thinks. That they, think that what I'm wearing is, not appropriate for my age, or that when I'm doing Zumba, I look clumsy. Like it really doesn't matter what they think.
Exactly. The only person that should approve of you is you.
Indeed.
Right?
I agree.
And
But it is. No, you go ahead.
No, you go.
No, you said and I interrupted you, and I didn't mean to.
I forget what I was going to say, so you go.
I got to stop doing this. I did it to Diane the other day, and I just did it to you. I got to stop doing that.
It couldn't have been that important if I forgot it already.
Well, now I forgot what I was going to say.
This is going to be a great podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm not editing 1 second of this.
Oh, you better.
Oh, you better.
Oh, yeah, now I remember what I was going to say. It doesn't matter what other people think. I mean, I'm sure that there are people out there that think that this podcast is, but I really don't care. I wanted to do it. I was hoping that Diane would come along for the ride. And
well, and you enjoy doing it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care what other people think. I care, but I don't care. I guess it's kind of the best way of putting it,
Well, we all want people to approve of what we're doing, but really at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they don't.
That's right, because this is really about trying to help people either become motivated when they weren't, or to get back to that motivation that they used to have. And a lot of this was brought on by this whole virus thing.
Exactly. And that's just it. And John, think about it this way. If you have a bunch of people that have opinions about this podcast, but you have one person that you motivate to follow their dream and work towards a goal and get moving, then you've done a great job, and you've done a great job while doing something that you're enjoying doing. So So if everyone else thinks that that's stupid, well, who cares, right?
Well, I don't think everybody does, but there would be people that do, but I don't care about that. Diane and I
Yeah,
just wanted to do this, and we wanted to interview people and find out what it was that made them do what they do, because hopefully that can inspire one other person to do that thing. And I
exactly.
figured we would get different answers from everybody. And at the end of the day, if we put all those answers together, maybe there's someone out there that says, hey, yeah, I can associate with what this person is saying. I understand where they're coming from because I've come from the same place, or
Well,
I understand what they're
exactly.
saying. So it makes so much sense to just reach out.
Everybody has their own unique situation and their own unique personality traits. So, I think it's great that you're interviewing a whole bunch of different types of people with different types of circumstances, because that way you're going to communicate to others, doesn't matter what situation you're in, you can find a way. You can be crafty.
It's a great word, crafty. And I think I'm going to, I hope you don't mind, I'm going to use that word more often when it comes to when we're talking about this. So, any other advice or anything else that you wanted to talk about or hash out or mention or anything?
Yeah. The only thing that we didn't touch on, which I'm perfectly fine with, was one of you had a question, what's the most embarrassing thing you've ever done? Thing was just spitting out my gum, but then I had a side comment of my fear, my biggest fear. And I knew you, John, I knew you were going to edit this out, but I got to tell you anyway. My biggest fear is, because it's an hour class, right? My biggest fear is needing to poop in the middle of the class.
Oh my goodness.
I
I'm
may not edit that
terrified.
out.
That needs to stay, because just think of all those people who have had that happen, that they've had to leave a class because they've had to poop. I mean,
That's true. It's a genuine thing for
it
people.
is.
So
Well, Samantha, I'm telling you, this has been a fantastic interview, and we have loved every second of it. Thank you for being a wonderful guest. Thank you very much for being on our podcast.
thank you for having me. This has been so much fun.
Well, good. And we hope that you'll come back again sometime, because maybe in a few weeks, months, whatever, we might ask you to come back and see what else you have to say, because I'm sure you have a lot more stories and you can share a lot more stories with our listeners. And I'm sure that they'll be excited to have you back.
Absolutely.
So that's the end of this podcast. And I'm John Lygroff.
And I'm Diane Wright.
And for Samantha Grecco, we'd like to say have a great night, and we'll see you again soon.